A warm welcome to all the Capricorn rising signs of the zodiac to your July 2025 astrology video. Trust you're doing well. I'm Cosmic Girl and thanks for being here. So we'll open up the video talking about your chart ruler, which is Saturn, and then we'll get into all of the astrology for the month of July. So Saturn, your chart ruler, is your avatar in this incarnation, and currently in the month of July is very, very slow. And it's in your natal fourth house of Aries. And this month, Saturn goes into a retrograde. In fact, it'll be retrograding in Aries and then retrograding back into Pisces, where your chart ruler Saturn spent a couple of years. So you're very familiar with what you're going to be uncovering, revisiting, or feeling out how things have gone in the last couple of years in your natal third house of Pisces with your siblings, anything to do with travel, education, and communication. You're going back to see the results, if you will, of your last couple of years' efforts that you've been injecting in that natal third house when your chart ruler Saturn retrogrades back there mid-year. Okay, so there's a lot going on for you as a Capricorn rising sign with your chart ruler Saturn in Aries, beginning in retrograde this month and going back into your natal third house. And then of course, your chart ruler will then retrograde back into your natal fourth house come February 2026, where it'll be for a couple of years in Aries. So that's a lot. That's a lot going on for you. And not that you can't handle it. You're a Capricorn rising sign, but when your chart ruler is really like standing still at the opening of the month of July, about to station to go into a retrograde, this can be a lot of heavy lifting for you on your body, on what you want to begin, on your health, your sense of self, how you fit in to where you rest your head at the end of the day, where do you go to retreat and relax, and how siblings, travel, and education is impacting all of your home life and things that you deal with in private regarding family, your actual home location, your lineage, your heritage, your ancestors. There's just so much going on for you. And again, not suggesting you can't handle it, but the astrology is sort of giving you a lay of the land, letting you know, hey, Capricorn rising signs, you're going to have to go back before you go forward when it comes to planting permanent seeds and coming to a peaceful resolution within family, your home life, and where you call home. So, quite a lot for the Caps. So, now we're going to get into the astrology for the month. We have a full moon happening in your natal first house. So, you get a full moon once a year, sometimes twice a year if you're lucky. But when you have a full moon in your natal first house, that is going to be a day on the 10th of July that's going to give you a lot of intel emotionally, physically, and spiritually. So it's a big month for you, Capricorn rising signs. So let's get into it. So Mars is still traversing through Virgo in your natal ninth house for the whole month of July. Now, Mars is all about strategy, putting things to rest, meaning getting rid of the dead wood. And Mars is very powerful in Virgo. Virgo's focused, it's intellectual, it's detailed, it's very teachy, it's very preachy, and it's all about skills, precision, and expertise. That's Virgo. And when you've got Mars in that natal ninth house of travel, education, foreigners, foreign places, religion, your values, your beliefs, there's a lot going on here for you to contemplate on what you want to cut away from. So you could finish a course, you could end a belief system, you could also try to intellectualize the bigger things in your life with this transit. Who am I? How do I fit in the world? What do I need to end regarding something foreign to me? Whether that be a thought, a concept, or actually a language or a course. This can be a transit with Mars in Virgo. When we're talking about travel, travel in your natal ninth house where Mars is right now, maybe you want to slow down travel, end travel. Like maybe you travel too much and you need to slow things down with this transit. Mars will help you strategically let go of so much movement with this transit. All in all, the natal ninth house trines your first house of beginnings, your health, your body, and your identity, who you are. So, because of this trine, Capricorn rising signs, I'm wondering if you're going through a process of how do I individually want to open up my mind, body, spirit, and soul to new experiences? But what is it going to take? Does that mean I have to end things that are laborious and tedious, too focused? Maybe that's something you're considering with this transit with Mars in Virgo in your natal ninth house for the whole month of July. Jupiter's still transiting in Cancer in your natal seventh house for the whole month. In fact, Jupiter will be in Cancer, your house of relationships and partnerships, until the 30th of June 2026. So, a really, really long transit. I've done a separate video for the Capricorn rising signs about Jupiter's transit in Cancer on my channel. Go back, listen to that video. You will get a wealth of astrological information about this transit that will serve you well. So I'm not going to labor on it and repeat everything that I discussed in that video for your rising signs. So I sincerely hope if you're an astrology enthusiast, you take the time to go back and listen to that video. You'll benefit from it. But in short, with Jupiter exalted in Cancer, traversing through your natal seventh house, the relationships and partnerships are easy to connect with. You get to see people that you proactively knock shoulders with in an intimate or a professional capacity do very well. And when people are doing well that you are connected with, then you also benefit from their wins. Wonderful transit for the whole month with Jupiter in your natal seventh house of Cancer. On the 4th, happy 4th of July to all my US listeners out there. We have a lot going on astrologically. Venus is conjuncting Uranus, then Venus is ingressing into Gemini, and Neptune begins its retrograde in Aries. That's a lot for one day. So if you are a planner and you think, when is the wind at my back? When is a harmonious day of flow? When are there days where there could be potential challenges? The 4th of July is one of those days where you can have quick change going on. So expect things to be moving fast on the 4th. When Venus conjuncts Uranus, this is a change of heart, something that you hold near and dear to you that's quite personal regarding children, pregnancy, sex, intimate relationships, anything artistic can go through a transition on this day where it can feel a little, for better words, disruptive. But ultimately, when Venus conjuncts Uranus, this is about let's go into a new direction and get rid of the old. So there could be a change of heart here with something that's near and dear to you on the 4th. Then Venus ingressing into your natal sixth house of Gemini until the 30th of July. It's a really quick transit. I mean, Venus is zooming through the solar system right now. She's at top speed. But Venus in Gemini is really good at clever communication. And Venus in Gemini gets intellectually stimulated by options, variety, and diversity. But this transit's happening in your natal eighth house of routine. Services that you provide, things that we do on the daily that are habitual. It's also the natal sixth house is connected to work, injury, illness, and slavery. Sound fun? Well, Venus, the planet of attraction, beauty, art, love, and relationships in the natal sixth house is where you roll up your sleeves and you get a job done organically. But Venus can be very distracting. So relationships can distract you from getting a job done with this transit. So you're on notice to create healthy boundaries here with Venus in Gemini from the 4th of July to the 30th of July. Neptune begins its retrograde in Aries in your natal fourth house of home and family, where you lay your head at rest at the end of the day. That's the natal fourth house. It's the house of privacy, it's a house of sleep. It is to do with real estate and property. And Neptune's only been in your natal fourth house of Aries since the 30th of March. Now, Neptune is the visionary. It's about fantasy, it's about dreams, it's about turning water into wine. Neptune's the visionary. But Neptune can be very distorting, foggy, hazy, and a little bit deceptive as well. So it's only moved 2 degrees in your natal fourth house of Aries. So, what, if anything at all, from the 30th of March this year, have you been toying with? Is that a new home, a new way of working within the family unit? You may be having more profound dreams. Your sleep could be distracted. You could feel a little bit disoriented about where you live. Well, now when Neptune goes into a retrograde on the 4th of July moving forward, you get to see the forest for the trees, how things have been working out regarding your big visions with your family, how you work with your dream space, how you work within your actual dwelling. Neptune gives you the lay of the land on the results, what you've been experienced since the 30th of March this year. And when you see results of what's been going on with Neptune now retrograding, you get to make a decision moving forward on how to work best with your big, lofty dreams and goals and visions of where you call home, what's going on within your family unit, your dream space, and how you feel at the end of the day when it comes to rest. Interesting transit with Neptune going retrograde in Aries at 2 degrees from the 4th of July. On the 7th, again, if you are one to plan ahead with planets and transits, there's a lot going on the 7th of July, but it's a flowy day. So I would plan to chill out and not overschedule yourself too much on the 7th of July because things are really flowy and cruisy. Venus is sextiling your chart ruler Saturn and retrograde Neptune. She's also trining retrograde Pluto. So, with Venus in the natal sixth house of work, health and service, relationships, things that you love, well, it becomes really obvious of what's working in regards to your finances, your livelihood, within your home life, and how it affects your daily routine. So, this day on the 7th of July, this is whistle while you work day, get a job done, but keep your eyes and ears peeled on how you organically feel about your money, your livelihood, your life at home, and what you do on the daily. There'll be a lot of subtle downloads coming through for you to help you navigate and come to terms with if you're on the right track or if you're not. The big news on the 7th of July is we have Uranus ingressing into Gemini. Now, Uranus hasn't been in Gemini for 84 years, so quite a long time. And it's going into that natal sixth house where Venus currently is. Now, Uranus will be retrograding back into Taurus, into your natal fifth house, and won't be permanently situated in your natal sixth house of Gemini until April 2026. So think of this transit of Venus in Gemini as a soft opening, like a peek into the future of what could be happening. Now, we know that natal sixth house is the house where we do the dishes, we wash the car, we clean the toilet, but we don't get a fanfare for it. We get a clap. We don't get a recognition for doing things on the daily. It's the house of service. We just do what we do on the daily. It's a routine house. It's to do with work, our health, injuries. It's about slavery and labor. Chop wood, carry water metaphor. That's the natal sixth house. So when Uranus dips its toes in here from the 7th of July moving forward, those daily routine things that are humdrum go through a sudden disruption and upgrade. It takes you into a new future. Uranus is the awakener. So think in a philosophical way about this transit. Uranus, the awakener. slaps you in the face. Wake up, look at this. And think of your natal sixth house of routine being in a dream space. And Uranus comes in and wakes it up and goes, look what you do, Capricorn rising signs, on the daily. And being Gemini with lots of variety and diversity and movement and action and communication and travel and lots to do with financial exchange, then Uranus is going to wake you up to streamlining and getting you out of dodge, liberating you and freeing you up from the mundane. So for you with Uranus in Gemini, Uranus is sort of clearing the way for you. And at the onset, it could be quite disruptive when you start to really come to peace with understanding that your daily life needs to be more structured and streamlined, not so chaotic. Not that you can't handle it, but Gemini has us in a state of too many paths. So Uranus is going to blast through the distraction here for you and get rid of things that are routine, laborious, that have held you in a spot for way too long. Fantastic for improving your health and injuries if you have any at all, and upgrading your daily life. Wonderful transit with Uranus and Gemini in your natal sixth house from the 7th of July moving forward. I will be doing a separate video in the future about Uranus transit in Gemini for all of the zodiac signs. So if you haven't subscribed, please do so. Hit the bell notification and you'll get notified of my upcoming videos, and you won't miss that all important astrological video about Uranus's transit through all zodiac signs. So this is the part of the month, Capricorn rising sign, on the 10th of July, we have our first lunation. And this is a full moon in Capricorn in your natal first house. So it's at 18 degrees, and this is going to be a banger. Let's talk about it. I've looked at the chart of the actual day of the full moon. Very interesting. So we need to know where the dispositor, the ruler of the zodiac sign of Capricorn is, which is your chart ruler Saturn. And it's currently really, really slow in the sky in areas in your natal fourth house of home, family, privacy, and sleep, and rest, and real estate, ancestry. We've discussed this already. The fourth house in length, where your chart ruler is currently transiting. So since he rules, Saturn, your chart ruler, is the ruler of that full moon in your natal first house of new starts, your health, your identity, who you are, then this can see you take a more bold step forward in regards to leadership within the family unit, making a strong, firm decision about your home life. Something to do with the mother could really be in the forefront on the 10th of July, for better or worse. Really interesting lunation. On the 13th, your chart ruler Saturn goes into a retrograde. So it's only moved 1 degree. So it hasn't really gone that far into your natal first house to make a very serious impact. But your chart ruler that rules you, well, then you may be teeter-tottering about where you call home and identifying what it's going to take to feel content, settled in the family, rest, sleep, where you actually live, and your whole family dynamic. So when your chart ruler Saturn goes into retrograde, you'll see the forest with the trees on how you feel about your role in the family, your place in a home, and real estate and property would be really on your mind when your chart ruler Saturn goes into a retrograde in areas in your natal fourth house from the 13th of July. There could be a lot going on with parents as well with this transit. Okay, and on the 13th of July, retrograde Saturn and retrograde Neptune are sextiling retrograde Pluto. Uranus and Gemini is trining retrograde Pluto. And Uranus and Gemini is trining your chart ruler retrograde Saturn and retrograde Neptune. So, all in all, with these outer planets and your chart ruler Saturn having these beautiful aspects from other outer planets, this signals that you really will start to have a bigger, more intelligent understanding of your place in the world and how work and finance and home and family is all integral in you functioning at your absolute best. Really big day on the 13th of July. So, again, if you work with transits, the 13th of July is a day of quiet contemplation. You might want to crunch numbers. You might want to deal with official paperwork. You may want to have DMs and important conversations on this day. Big day, the 13th of July for you. On the 18th of July, Mercury is going into a retrograde before it goes direct next month on August 11. Now, Mercury has been transiting in your natal eighth house of Leo. Now, the natal eighth house is an important part of our natal chart, Capricorn rising. It's the house of shared resources, partners' resources, be it intimate or otherwise. It's about death and inheritance. Now, death can be the end of a course, the end of a debt, the end of a plethora of things. Death doesn't necessarily have to be about a physical death, although it can be. We can't remove that reality. But Mercury has been here in Leo in your natal eighth house for some time. And when it goes retrograde, you start to see results. Now, when I'm talking about results, I want you to think about Capricorn rising signs. What was going on for you regarding shared resources, inheritance and death, those subjects and topics? How would they engage with you from the 29th to the 30th of June? What was going on around that period for you? Because Mercury will station direct on August 11, and that will be reigniting, if you will, the conversations or what was going on for you on the 29th or the 30th of June this year. So you'll be revisiting or coming to a resolution about whatever you were engaged with on those dates when Mercury goes direct on August 11, 2025. So that natal eighth house of Leo, where Mercury's been transiting, I mean, Leo and Mercury together, we're talking about a fiery Mercury. Leo is a fire zodiac sign. Leo is an abundant, opulent zodiac sign. Leo is a zodiac sign of leadership. Leo is a zodiac sign of heart's desires. And Mercury's function is interested in money, communication, paperwork, travel, and intellectualizing any subject, wants to understand things quite organically. And to understand things organically, Mercury needs intel and is a great researcher. So I wonder for the Capricorn rising signs, while Mercury has been transiting in your natal eighth house of Leo, what, if anything at all, has been on your mind about how and what and where and who is going to support you financially to reach a goal when it comes to extending yourself out into the world with travel, education, learning something new, believing in the unbelievable? That's got to do with other people's resources, death, and inheritance. So this will be quite a retrograde period for you from the 18th of July moving forward before Mercury goes direct on August 11. So whatever has occurred from the 29th to the 30th, it's going to be revisited, and you're certainly going to know where you stand when it comes to moving forward confidently with financial investments, shared resources, death and inheritance. Interesting transit for you. And on the 18th, Mercury sextiles Venus. Now, Venus is in Mercury's zodiac sign of Gemini. So we've got a nice mutual reception going on here. So what I'm getting here too for you with Venus sextiling Mercury on the 18th of July is there's something about your daily life regarding a relationship, something you're attracted to, regarding a service or changing up something that's routine that benefits you in a financial capacity or with inheritance or putting something to an end. Now, that could be ending a service, ending something to do with an illness, ending something to do with overcompensating with too much work. Interesting sextile with Mercury and Venus linking up nicely on the 18th of July. You may be ready to capitalize on releasing something that has been, for better words, laborious, and this will be the day when you really be aware of what works for you organically, what really attracts you about work and service and your health. And what is it going to take? Is it going to take other people's resources to support you to get you where you're going regarding your big, lofty dreams and goals for your future? Really interesting day on the 18th of July. On the 22nd, we now have the Sun ingressing into Leo, where Mercury's just gone into a retrograde and the Sun is in domicile in Leo. So the Sun functions very well in its own zodiac sign in your natal eighth house of death, inheritance, financial investments, and shared resources until the 22nd of August. Now, this can be an overindulgent transit financially. This can really see some Capricorn rising signs biting off more than they can chew, but happy to do so. So this can be shaking hands, signing on the dotted line, putting a ring on it with someone and going, you know what? Let's just go for it together. We can do this. So it's going to be a really interesting transit with the Sun well positioned in Leo in your natal eighth house. If there are things like death and inheritance that do come up for you for this 4-week transit, then it will be easy for you to deal with the more denser things in life because the Sun encourages spirit and joy and optimism in Leo. So, not that we're really, really happy about death, but if we finally end things, then that's a celebration moment. Or if there is a death, then we can appreciate what that life brought to us with joy instead of being too melancholy about it. Now, that's being a half glass full person. That's just being me, very, very subjective. But when we're also talking about the Sun in Leo in the house of inheritance, then you may benefit from inheriting anything. That could be a car, a house, money, an asset with the Sun in Leo in your natal eighth house from the 22nd of July until the 22nd of August. We also have the Sun sextiling Uranus in Gemini on the 22nd of July. So we know that Venus is in the natal sixth house as well of Gemini. And we also know Uranus has only just stepped into this natal sixth house of Gemini. So when the eighth and sixth house are in harmony, if you will, the Sun is agreeing with Uranus that there's something that needs to change and shift on the daily for you. It's time to liberate and free yourself up from something laborious. And because the Sun is in the natal eighth house of shared finances, death, and inheritance, it's almost like a coming to peace with letting go of something that is anchoring and has been weighing you down for quite some time. So you may be ready to cut away from a service, get on top of an illness or an injury, get out of something that's like too archaic and old. You need something fresh and new. Then maybe someone that has a shared investment with you or a financial connection with you shows you a better way or can support you moving forward with letting go of a service or something that is, for better words, long in the tooth on the 22nd of July. On the 24th, there's a lot going on astrologically. We have the Sun trining your chart ruler retrograde Saturn and retrograde Neptune. We also have the Sun opposing retrograde Pluto. We have Venus squaring off with Mars and a new moon in Leo at 2 degrees in your natal eighth house. So that is a lot going on astrologically on one day. So again, if you're a planner, the 24th of July is a day when you'll have some really, really high highs, but potentially some really sobering conversations and moments all mixed up in one. The standout is the new moon in Leo in your natal eighth house at 2 degrees. So, with the moon and the sun quietly having a conversation together on the 24th of July, there's potential for you to emotionally feel more optimistic about a new beginning regarding an investment, inheriting something new that you can benefit from, and ending something that has been weighing you down. So, all in all, the new moon at 2 degrees in Leo and in natal eighth house bodes well for you to step out of the old and bring in something new that benefits family, your home, a physical environment, something that emotionally ticks your boxes. You're ready for something brand new on the 24th of July. And the new moon encourages you to be optimistic about change. So something old is trying to get out of your reality to bring in something new, especially with Uranus in your natal sixth house of routine. But the standout apart from the new moon is that sun opposing retrograde Pluto. So this is your financial houses in opposition. So this can feel like questioning your values and others on this day. What you believe is the right way forward financially may not be totally gelling with something to do with your work, assets and possessions. So finances, assets and possessions can come into question on the 24th of July, where you may be getting some pushback or you may be pushing back against letting go of something that you find near and dear to your heart. So it may also be a double-edged sword kind of day when it comes to serious financial commitments. On the 30th, Venus ingresses into Cancer, joining Jupiter until the 25th of August. So the two benefics, being Venus and Jupiter, are traversing through your house of relationships and partnerships, be it intimate or otherwise. When you have the two benefics cruising through your house of relationships, then it's not too much of a push to connect with people organically. It's not too much of a push to get people to give you a leg up when you need it. If you are in an intimate relationship and it's not official regarding you've been dating for a while or you haven't really thought about marriage, well, when Venus is traversing through here from the 30th of July to the 25th of August, you may want to make this relationship official with Venus in Cancer and Jupiter also here. Interesting but very blissful transit. When you knock shoulders with people of an intimate or a professional capacity that are doing well and they're content, then you benefit. Beautiful transit. On the 31st of July, the last day of the month, we have the Sun conjunct retrograde Mercury. So this is what we call a Kazemi moment. So Mercury is in the heart of the Sun. So this is intellectualizing how you actually feel about shared resources, death, and inheritance. So you could be all up in your head on this day on the 31st. You may receive a financial payout. You may also get some important correspondence on this day that has you really all up in your head and potentially crunching numbers on the 31st of July. On the 31st of July, the last day of the month, we have the Sun conjunct retrograde. That's your astrology for the month, Capricorn rising signs. Thank you for being here. If you have any questions or you would like a personal astrology reading with me, I could be contacted at cosmicgirl101 at protonmail.com. Till next time, Capricorn rising signs, stay cosmic.